Welcome everybody to the Prisma Meetup. I don't know. I'm in California, and it is the morning here, but good evening or good night to anybody who's watching from overseas. We're super excited today to be here with our awesome team over at CockroachDB, and we're going to be talking a little bit about just how seamlessly our different technologies can integrate together and how they help you with your development flow. And we've actually got a pretty cool agenda today with a couple of guest speakers. We've got Aydrian Howards, who's a developer advocate over at CockroachDB, and then Dange, who is over at Vista, and they're using CockroachDB with Prisma. So we're going to get to hear a little bit from those guys, and I'll be speaking with Aydrian as well. So here's the agenda for today. Oops, if I can, there we go. So yeah, first of all, me and Aydrian are going to go through just a little bit of a talk about using CockroachDB with Prisma, and then we're going to give a bit of a demo and just sort of show it in action. And then we will get on with Dange and sort of hear about their use case using Cockroach and Prisma. And then finally, we've got a raffle. We will be raffling off this book right here, CockroachDB, the definitive guide. I'm pretty sure Aydrian can speak to it more than me, but this is from what I've heard, it's a very awesome book that has a lot of good stuff in there about setting up serverless distributed databases. And so the first talk we have is with me and Aydrian, and we're going to be going over distributed data and powerful tooling with CockroachDB. So if we could get Aydrian on here.
Hello. Okay, so It looks like we're going to need me to share the slides.
Oh, yeah? Is it being all crunchy again?
So bear with me because I need to open up my laptop screen.
Okay.
So I can just share it. Technical difficulties. It's the fun of every online event.
Oh, yeah. Especially the ones that I run.
I don't know what's going on. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm still here. Let me take the slides. And okay, hi, bud. I do have a corgi in the background who is very much trying to get me to throw a ball. Let me get this all. Get this the right thing. Okay, so I am going to share my screen down here. Share screen. Not screen two.
Perfect.
All right. Let's see if this works better.
Hey,
that looks good.
That looks good to me. Thanks, everybody, for bearing with us.
Give me 1 second. I need to set my other screen as well. How is everybody? Welcome. I'm very excited that we're going to be giving out the definitive guide book. So that's going to be fun. I have my copy right here on the table with me.
I need to get me a copy. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I really want to go through and actually read the whole thing.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I got it at one of our CockroachDB internal events, and I have my copy signed by 2 of the 3 authors.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
That is nice. Okay. All right. So cool. I think I am ready to kick it off.
Perfect. All right. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. And Aydrian, do you want to give your a little bit of an intro of who you are and what you do?
Of course. Hello, my name is Aydrian Howards. I am a developer advocate at Cockroach Labs, who is the creator and maintainer of CockroachDB. I'm located in New York with my corgi Atticus that you can probably hear prancing around in the background. I have been a developer advocate for over 7 years. I'm really excited about using Prisma. I joke that part of me taking this job at CockroachDB was that we would get our own Prisma connector, and I think it was like 6 months later and we have it. So excited about that. You'll see me on Twitch live coding. I've been doing a lot with Prisma and CockroachDB and Remix, which we'll be showing a little of that off later in the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I could vouch for that live stream. It's a lot of good content in there, a lot of good stuff. So definitely check it out.
Thank you. Great.
Cool. Yeah, let's jump in.
You know what? It's doing the blocky thing on me as well. There we go.
Oh, so it's not just me. Yay. Cool. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about distributed data and powerful tooling with Prisma and CockroachDB. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to be talking about the individual technologies, sort of what they do, how they work really well on their own, and then sort of how they pair together nicely, and then give a quick demo of that. So should be pretty cool. Yeah, and then like we've said before, we like to introduce ourselves a lot here. I think I put too many of these slides in. But yeah, I'm Sabin Adams. I'm a developer advocate here at Prisma. I'm fairly new. I've been on the team for just a couple of months now, and it's been a great experience working with an awesome product.
Yeah. I'm still Aydrian Howards. We just went through this.
Cool. And then, yeah, so this is the cool thing here is that, as we've announced before, and as Aydrian alluded to a second ago, we do have support generally available for CockroachDB. So this is nothing new, but we just wanted to reiterate that this is out there and available. So anyone who wants to use this in production or is thinking about using it in production, we're ready for it. So that should be available for you to use and test out. And then, yeah, we'll just jump into what Prisma is. So Prisma is basically an ORM, and it's a fully type-safe ORM. It has a bunch of different little pieces to it. But we are an ORM that is completely type-safe. And so if you could move to the next slide, actually. The first piece of Prisma is its type-safe ORM, where we provide a lot of the functionality that some other ORMs provide. However, we do it in a fully type-safe way. So every input that you provide to Prisma and any data that you get out of it, even if you're selecting columns and relations, is fully type-safe. So you can have that peace of mind that you're working with the right data, that you are selecting out the data that you want, and that you're providing the inputs that you need to. And then the next one. Cool. Yep. And then Prisma also provides a nice schema migration tool. And this one actually really pairs well with CockroachDB. And so we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But this allows you to perform database migrations, update your table, update your schemas, and do it all within one nice tool that Prisma provides through the CLI. And then finally, one of the newer things that we have out, and it's actually really recently became generally available, is our data platform. And this specifically helps you move data to a serverless environment. So this will help you with connection pool management. As you can see here, we have different features where you can have an integrated Prisma schema. And so you could view your schema right within the web browser, view your data, run test queries, and we're also adding a lot of new features. If you didn't get a chance to check out Prisma Day this year, we had a nice talk called The Future of Prisma that goes over a lot of different features that are coming to the data platform. So definitely check that out if you get a chance, and you'll be able to see sort of what's coming next.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Sabin. I'm actually interested because this is a Prisma Meetup group. If you are brand new to Prisma and this is your first Prisma Meetup, give us a shout out in the chat. We'd love to see all the new people. And if you've been here before, welcome back. So what is CockroachDB? Probably a lot of you have not heard about it. We have been around for, I believe, 8 years. The company's been around for 7 years. Don't celebrate your 7-year birthday or 8-year birthday on Twitter. They will block you because you have to be at least 13. So that was a fun little thing that happened to us. But we are back on Twitter. You can follow us at CockroachDB. CockroachDB is a distributed SQL relational database. So we were built from the ground up to be distributed. We can scale fast. We can survive anything and thrive anywhere. The last part, the Thrive Anywhere, is really cool because we actually had a customer come up to us at a conference and talk about how he went dumpster diving for computers and used those to set up a CockroachDB cluster, and it had been running for like 5+ years. And during that time, they actually moved the cluster from one house to another without actually taking down the database. So really cool story there. But we are not just like Postgres in the cloud. We are completely new. We do implement the Postgres wire protocol. So that's the easiest way to connect to us outside of Prisma. But we actually can scale horizontally like most document databases just by adding more nodes. And we have really great uptime. But what I want to talk about today is CockroachDB serverless. So we want you to never have to worry about your database again. So you don't have to think about servers. You can just go sign up for free. A cluster is created for you super fast. Pay only for what you use. And with this comes, I think, hand in hand, we need to talk about elastic scale. So with CockroachDB serverless, your database can actually scale all the way down to 0. So you're absolutely not paying for it when you're not using it. So I know some services, they have elastic scale, but that doesn't scale all the way down to 0. So you're constantly paying for something. With CockroachDB, if you have an application that say only, it gets used on the weekend, then the rest of the week you're not actually paying for anything because we're able to scale everything down. And then once you need to use the database again, we can spin it back up, similar to like a serverless function. We have a tiny, tiny little cold start, but once it's up and running, then no problems. And it is Postgres compatible, so that helps with developer familiarity. If you've ever used Postgres before, you're going to have a really easy time onboarding to CockroachDB. And then the part that I think is really nice, because this is kind of how I used to pick up my databases, it's forever free. So it's got a generous and never-ending monthly credit for requests and storage. So I believe that we give you 5 gigabytes of storage and 250 million request units a month, which is enough to do a lot of side projects. And then when you're ready, we scale with you. So each month, those request units are replenished, and you're only responsible for paying what you go above that. So if you use 251 million request units, you're only charged for that 1 million request units. Quick math there. If you're interested in learning about how we built CockroachDB serverless, all the infrastructure to make a truly scalable serverless database, check out this blog post that we wrote, how we built a forever free serverless SQL database. Hopefully the QR code works for you. If not, we will make sure to put it in the description here. What's next? I believe it's back to
time. Yeah. So this is one thing I really wanted to point out. This is one of the cool features of CockroachDB, actually, that I think pairs really well with Prisma. So we talked a little bit before about the Prisma Migrate, which allows you to basically update your Prisma schema and just run a couple commands to get your database updated and have a new schema available on your database. And that's really cool, but a lot of people have this problem with database migrations where they have some downtime. They have a little bit of time where your schema is updating. Maybe you have to bring your database down so that you can provide your updates and then bring it back up and allow it to take data flow again. But CockroachDB actually has this really cool feature called online schema changes. Because they're built in a distributed way, there's different nodes with different database servers set up on it, and they all are considered one like central cluster of databases. So with online schema changes, you can actually provide a migration and run it without the database ever going down. So you start off with this Prisma migrate process where you make the update on your Prisma schema. And then after you've set up all your tables, all the columns, maybe add new indexes that you want, you can run Prisma migrate. And then with CockroachDB, by default, it actually uses this online schema change feature. So your change gets applied to your CockroachDB database, and then CockroachDB itself handles rolling out those changes in a way where you don't get any downtime. So it'll bring down maybe a couple of your nodes, update those, backfilling data, and then slowly roll it out across the other database nodes until it's finally out. So the result is that you get a really nice flow for zero downtime migrations that if you were to try to set this up just sort of from scratch, this is actually a pretty complicated problem to solve. And a lot of teams work really hard to get this sort of workflow. So I think it's cool that the two of our technologies sort of do this together.
Absolutely. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about some of the exciting things that are coming to CockroachDB serverless. So right now I'm working on an example. It's using Remix and Prisma to implement row-level TTL. So this allows you to set a time to live expiration for table rows, similar to what you would see in a lot of document databases. I know that MongoDB has this, and DynamoDB. So it's something you typically see in document style databases, but we are able to do it on a relational database. And so that's pretty cool. So the example that I'm working on is a shopping cart where you can add items to the shopping cart, but after a certain amount of times, they are removed from the cart. But there's lots of other things that you can do with it if you are accepting sensor data. And it's like constantly saving rows to the database, but you only care about maybe a 30-day window. You can have those rows expire once they hit 30 days. And so you constantly have a rolling window. Row level TTL, it's currently in preview in 22.1, our 22.1 release, which will hopefully be in serverless by the end of the week. So check that out. And then the other thing that I'm very excited about is multi-region for serverless. This is currently available in CockroachDB dedicated, where you can set up your own dedicated clusters around the world. But we're working on adding this to serverless. So whenever you sign up for serverless, you just have access to all of these nodes all around the world. And that really speeds up building global applications because you can keep the data close to the user. You can specify a region by row or by table. So there might be some tables that you want to keep global, so they're available to everybody. And so you have multiple replications all over the world. And then there might be some rows and tables like user data that you want to keep in specific regions close to the user. So that way everybody has the same experience with your application. So that's very exciting. You can do it today with CockroachDB dedicated. In the future, hopefully in the next year, we're going to have this available for everybody. So that's just something else that's really exciting.
Yeah, and it's cool to go through these and sort of think of the pairing between Cockroach and DB with these cool features where Cockroach sort of handles a lot of these on their own, and Prisma handles its own set of problems, the developer experience within the application code. So when you pair those two together, you get this really, really awesome blend of just ease of use for the developer. And I don't know, it gets me really excited to see those, the two different technologies sort of putting features out like that.
Yeah, we have this process internally where we write aspirational blog posts, and someone just wrote one about global application development using, I think, Dino deploy and CockroachDB serverless, and it's just it really gets you pumped. Where like this is the future that we are trying to create, and it was like step by step, just so easy to. The example they used was a streaming service. So there's tables that you want to have available close to everybody everywhere. And so you can make those global tables. And then whenever you're talking about like the preferences and statistics that are specific to the user, you want those stored close to the user. And then it even goes into talking about like, what if the user actually moves? So we have a user who likes to vacation in London, but lives in California. And after a while, they vacation in London so much that they just decided to move there. So how do we attack the problem of actually migrating their data that's region locked to a new place? How do we handle the case where they are trying to watch their streaming media from London? How do we deal with them accessing their data that's across the pond? So it was a really cool thing. And I love that we do this kind of thing. Unfortunately, we can't share these blog posts externally, but internally, it really gets you pumped. And it just allows us to like push out really cool features.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
Cool. I think the plan was for me to run the demo, but given my screen situation, maybe you can share your screen for it, and we'll sort of be the driver.
Yeah, I was not prepared for this, so I don't have anything open. Do you want to give it? Maybe if you're not presenting a slide deck, do we want to see how it will work? Do we just want to try it out? switching back over to yours, because I have. So in CockroachDB serverless, we give you 5 clusters, and I have used them all.
Oh, nice.
So I had to delete some things first.
Cool. Yeah.
So let's try switching back over to yours. If not, we can go through this.
Yeah. How is that? It's not good, is it?
Yeah, it's weird. Some weird refresh. I wonder, are they upgrading things in StreamYard right now?
Right. Yeah. It's funny because I've used it before and haven't seen this. So I think probably my screen will be a non-option here.
So let me get a new window here.
Cool. And again, thank you guys for bearing with us here for some of these technical difficulties.
I know. What is going on? I'm worried about my computer has started up the big fan. So let's go through, and I'm going to real quickly. Every day it makes me.
I guess while he's setting some of this up, I'll just like to remind you guys, we do have a raffle going on for the CockroachDB definitive guide. So if you go here, put your name in the raffle, and near the end of the stream, we'll announce who won and get some details there.
Okay. There's that. Right.
And I guess this will also be a cool, unexpected demo of the Cockroach Cloud CLI. So this is just sort of logging in and checking out your clusters.
I'm going to delete a cluster here. We're going to delete Juicy Rhino. That name was auto-generated. I did not pick it out, but I did find it hilarious. All right, so now I am back to 4 out of 5 clusters. Let's clear that real quick. Let me. A little bigger. We're part of the thing that's cool is we can do a lot of this just on the command line. So if you're new to this, it's really quick. So first, let me grab a browser window here, because I want to talk about Remix. Oh, there we go. I'm playing around like I never share my screen or have a live stream or anything. This is fine. So Remix is a framework. We can actually just kind of run it up right here. This is my new favorite application framework. It's called Remix. You can check it out at remix.run. Makes it really easy to build web applications, taking care of the front end and the back end. And it can be deployed to a number of different places: Vercel, Netlify, Fly.io. Pretty much you name it, they have a way to deploy to it. And recently they came out with Remix Stacks, which is kind of their concept of a templated application that's opinionated about what it's using, what database, what authentication, style system, etc. And what's great about these stacks is most of them have decided to use Prisma as a way to connecting to the database. And so what that means is if you don't like that they're using, let's say, SQLite and you want to use CockroachDB, it's actually really easy to switch that around. And that's what we're going to be doing today. And we're just going to use the indie stack. And so most of the stacks are named after subgenres of music. So we've got the indie stack, we got the blues stack. Netlify just came out with a K-pop stack. But we're going to use the indie stack. And here we can see what's in the stack. So it's a Fly app deployment with Docker, production ready SQLite database, styling with Tailwind, database ORM with Prisma, and a number of other things. But as somebody who works for CockroachDB, I'm like, well, I would like to use the indie stack, but I want to use it with CockroachDB. So what this demo is going to do is we're going to start up a version of the indie stack but we're going to switch it to use CockroachDB, and we'll run through that. So most of this is going to be in the terminal. So let me bump this up one more time. Did I click it? There we go. All right.
Cool. Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, let me just maximize that as well. So the first thing we want to do is we want to initialize a new application using the Remix Indie Stack. So I'm going to copy and paste here. So from my developer folder here, now I've got to switch all these around. I'm going to run npx create remix, and I'm going to give it a template of the remix run indie stack. So this is going to involve running npm. So again, you might have to bear with us depending on how happy and fast npm is going to be today. So let's run this. See, now we wait. Okay.
Hey, that was pretty quick.
Well, that was just realizing that I ran npx.
Right.
So it's going to be fetching a whole bunch of things, and then it's going to ask us some questions.
And funny story, we actually recently we were at RemixConf, me and Aydrian were, and we got to meet in person for the first time. So that was super cool. Got to hang out a bit. It was
a really good conference, and they're already planning the one for next year. And I highly recommend that you go, even if you don't know Remix yet. The talks were amazing. The people are amazing, and just like that whole group from me at Remix, really great.
Yeah, definitely. Just the conversations you have with people makes it all worth it.
We're going to call this my indie stack. So it's asking me where I want to create the app. I'm going to choose TypeScript.
We love TypeScript.
And run npm install. I'm getting better at it. You might notice me if you are part of the Prisma Slack community Slack. Like I was just in there today, and I'm like, I'm a TypeScript noob. How do I get this to work? Okay, and so it's this is where we're actually running npm install, and so this could take some time. But let's see. Might have a time there. I do see a question in the chat says, "What's the difference between something like PlanetScale or MongoDB and this?" I apologize, I'm pretty new to databases. So they're all databases as a service. PlanetScale, it uses MySQL and Vitesse. MongoDB, Atlas is their service, and MongoDB is a document database, so not relational. And CockroachDB is a relational distributed SQL database. So we are more similar to Postgres. And they're all databases as a service. They all can scale out. They just do it a little differently. With our serverless offering, we can actually scale down to 0 and have the consumption-based pricing, etc. But it really is going to be based on what your need is. So if you need a highly consistent transactional database, I would go with CockroachDB. And nice. Yesterday I moved my SQLite database to CockroachDB. Nice.
Yeah, got a little spoilers then, huh? That's cool.
Spoilers. No, yeah. We're not even going to do much with the SQLite database right now. We are so close. We're so close.
It's funny. I went through sort of the code for this demo a couple times, and always the npm install was the longest piece. And that kind of just goes to show how quickly you can get up and running nowadays with the full application that's ready to be distributed globally. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Okay, it's like hanging at the end. So I think we are pretty much done with the Remix app, and so I could actually run that, and we can see that it works. So. Okay. Maybe. We're so close.
We need to set a timer up and send it over to npm afterwards and say, look at your load times.
I know. This is. Well, also my computer's probably freaking out because they're like, if you're using 2 different displays and you're streaming and everything, like is it getting warm? It's probably fine. There we go.
Hey, there we go.
And now it's running the remix.init script. So this is where it's doing things like setting up your database, running Prisma migrate, doing all those things. And so the point of stacks is whenever you're done, you are like, it's ready to go. And so you can see here it's generating the Prisma client and then etc. Seeding the database. And so we can just start development with npm run dev. So let's go ahead and do that. npm run dev. And we got errors.
Oh, you got a CD into the directory.
So whenever I was writing these instructions, I did the same thing. So let's see. CD, is it my indie stack? Is what I'm calling it. All right, so we're in it. There's something wrong with Starship on this laptop running Intel processor. I don't know what's going on, but it's mad because it can't tell what node version I'm using. So now we can run npm run dev. It's going to start up a little developer server. Doing things, generating CSS, and we are done. Nope. Now we are done.
There we go.
Okay. So if we click on this, it's going to, of course, open that in the wrong screen. But we end up with a little site. Oh, here we go. That's fine. We end up with a little site like this, and we can even log in, and the username is Rachel at remix.run, and then the password is Rachel is cool. So here is the little app. It works. It's got authentication. You can browse the different notes. You can do a new note, hello, save, and here's our new note. So this is great, works out of the box, but it's using SQLite. So let's go through the process of spinning up a cluster on CockroachDB and switching it over. Hopefully this will not take as long, but I'm going to close this out. We'll go back over here in that. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to use the cloud CLI for CockroachDB serverless to create a new cluster database and then get the database URL, which is what we need for Prisma. If you don't have CockroachDB installed and you're using a Mac, or if you don't have the cloud installed and you're using a Mac, you can just run this command here, install it using Homebrew. That's how I do it. But I already have it installed. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a cloud, and we're going to use the quick start command, which I think is really cool because it really lives up to its name. It's going to start you really quickly. So we're going to run that. We do want to create a new cluster. The cluster name, so it gives you a name, Course Mouse. We'll just use Course Mouse. I'm going to choose AWS. And then US East 1. Are you ready to create the cluster? Yes, I am. So we're creating the cluster, and this is actually really fast. Boom. We now have a cluster.
Yeah, that's crazy. It feels like magic every time that part happens.
So we're going to connect to the cluster. And so the cluster doesn't have any SQL users. So we need to create a new one. For the username, I am going to choose Victor. And I picked that because I've just finished watching the new season of The Umbrella Academy. And then we need a password. And so I'm going to use, and I wrote it down, so I know how to like type it in again. PASSW0RD1234. That is my very secure password.
Yeah.
We need to create a database. And so I'm just going to call it indie stack. The cert path, I just accept the default. Would you like to connect to the cluster? Yes, I will. And then how would you like to connect? What we're looking for is the general connection string. This is what we're going to feed to Prisma. And so we'll do that. And then it outputs this string right here. So I'm going to copy that right here. And now we want to go into our .env and paste that in, replace what it already has. So I'm going to just go ahead and fire up VS Code. And it's going to open in the wrong window. Oh, no, it didn't. Wow.
Hey, there we go. Nice.
Look at that. Something's working right. Let's make that bigger. And let's bump this up. And then we're going to go find our .m file. Here we've got the database URL. We are just going to replace it with the one that we got from CockroachDB. And we are good.
Yeah.
So the next thing we need to do is make some changes to our prisma.schema file. So we'll go in here and we'll look in here. And so right now our database, we are targeting SQLite. Because of 3.14 and above, we now have the availability to change this to CockroachDB. We don't have to change the URL because it is targeting that environment variable. Environment variables, they use them. Don't show your passwords.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we can change that. And now because the stack automatically ran the migration, the Prisma migrate, we need to remove that. So let's go back over here and we're going to remove the Prisma migrations folder. So we're just going to do an RM, RF, Prisma migrations. And then we're able to create a new initial migration. So we can run npx, Prisma, migrate, dev, name, and init. And so what this is going to do is it's going to take the schema file that's already available and push that to our CockroachDB instance.
Yeah, and just some clarification on removing that migrations file. So when you do use Prisma Migrate, it sets up sort of this migration history. So you have a view of the different states your database is in and the commands that were, or the SQL commands that were run to get your database to its current point. And whenever you switch databases, you're going to want to remove all of that because you're going to be basically starting from a fresh start. So that's the way to do it there.
Yeah. Okay, and so now I'm just going to go ahead and rerun the setup that's provided with the stack, which I think it's just doing. Yeah, so it's going to seed the database as well. So pretty much the other stuff has already been done. Prisma generate and Prisma migrate deploy have already been done, but it's adding on the Prisma DB seed. So we have some things in there to start with, and we are done. So we can go to npm run dev again. We'll let that start up.
Yep. And so what we've done at this point is we've just stripped out SQLite. We've created the CockroachDB cluster and basically drop and replaced it into our Prisma schema. That's one of the really cool things about Prisma is that abstraction over these databases. So it really was just a matter of changing the environment variable to the connection string and the provider tag. And with just that, you can get a completely new database running under Prisma.
So here's the site. Looks the same. We'll hit login. We'll do Rachel at remix.run, and Rachel is cool. And we logged in. We were able to authenticate. You can see that the note that we created whenever we were in SQLite is gone because this is a fresh database. And so we can say new CockroachDB note. Hello. And it all works. Cool. So we took a remix stack that was built for another database and we changed it. And if we take out all of the npm time, this is probably like you can do it in 5-10 minutes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so that this all just plays into that theme that Prisma and CockroachDB integrate so seamlessly together and provide just this awesome developer experience where you can get up and running. Like this application is fully ready to be distributed globally. It's running on some of the the greatest technologies that are available right now, and it was like you said, it only took a couple minutes to set up. So that's pretty darn cool.
And just real quickly, I'll use the C Cloud to go into the database so we can take a look. Okay, so I need my password, which is PA. This is why I wrote it down. SSWORD1234. So it's starting the shell. Did I? Okay, I did not spell it right. So I'm going to copy and paste it now.
There we go.
Oh, it's because I'm using the wrong user. There we go.
There we go.
We're doing it live, folks. So we're getting into the shell. We're currently connected to default DB, but I'm going to use Indie Stack. So we'll connect to that one. We can show tables. And here are all of our tables. So we've got our note table, our password table, our user password, or user table, and then our table for maintaining the migrations. But done.
Yeah, perfect. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think that's it for the demo, really. We, like I said, we demonstrated that it's super easy to get up and running with both of these, and it was pretty quick. So thanks for running that, Aydrian. That was super cool. Sorry for the confusion with the screens and all of that, but I think it ended up working great. So thanks so much.
So the password was visible in the connection string. Just it makes it easier to copy that out, and that's probably something that you're not going to do in front of a lot of people, but every other place, like when you type in the password, it's obscured. Thank you. Here is a QR code that will sign you up for a free CockroachDB serverless account. If you don't have an account yet, please sign up using this QR code because it does attribute the signups to this Prisma Meetup, and that just allows us to do lots of cool things whenever they see, we're getting signups for going out and doing these things. And then lastly, do you have any questions for Sabin or myself? I know we've tried to keep on top of them here since we've had moments of lull.
I'm not seeing any coming in.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What is the next slide?
There we go. Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Cool. Well, yeah. Again, thanks so much for coming on and running through that for us. That was super cool.
Yeah.
And so next up, we've got Sid from Vista, and he's going to talk a little bit about how they're using CockroachDB. So if we can get Sid on.
Oh, hey guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. Good. Great job with the demo here. It actually kind of shows one of the reasons why we picked Prisma. So.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. So I can get into that in a bit.
Yeah, that's great. Do you want to just go ahead and introduce yourself first? Let everyone know who you are.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Sid. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Vista, and we're a managed platform for B2B SaaS companies to easily enable user permissions or RBAC on their platform. So I have a few slides. I think there we go. Cool. So I can just kind of walk through what we do, and then I can talk about why we picked Cockroach and Prisma. So what are user permissions? So user permissions consists of both feature access, where a customer might have access to a specific subset of features, depending on a plan that they're under or a contract they've signed, as well as data access, which is limiting access to data depending on their role or who they are in the company. So Ultimately, we help answer the question, given user X, can they perform action Y on object or feature Z? So this is something every B2B SaaS company needs as they begin to sell upmarket. Not everyone can be an admin and just go and do anything. So that you end up actually having to rebuild this many different times because your product evolves. It gets more complex. You add new lines of business. You split services. So your architecture also gets more complex. So turns out this has to be rebuilt 6-7 times, which is pretty much every year. And ultimately, everyone has this. So it's not really a competitive differentiator. So why would you spend time building this yourself over and over when you can instead work on more competitive features that move the needle? So that being said, we aim to provide an end-to-end solution with everything you need as you scale, from sidecar caches to testing frameworks, version control, config that can be checked in and tracked, all in a centralized location to manage feature and data access for your customers. So that's all great. And we run a managed service. So you use our API to grant and check permissions. And typically permissions checks are on the critical path. So they're done for most requests, which means that our responses need to be very quick and our services need to be highly available everywhere our customer is as well. So given the nature of that problem, high availability anywhere, naturally you start thinking about where you want to keep your state and how you're going to shard it, what kind of replicas, how you're going to tune them. And so this kind of implies maintaining a cluster of databases. So starting out from that requirement, CockroachDB made a lot of sense. We can easily spin up nodes in any region, which allows us to be as flexible as our customers are, as well as co-locate data closer to them. So that helps for performance. Each cluster is also highly available within a region. So, and we can't have downtime, although we do offer a self-hosted cache to kind of de-risk against both availability and latency. Strongly consistent. So when access is revoked for a user, that revocation has to propagate everywhere. Otherwise, you risk leaking sensitive information for that window of time. So in other words, that problem is known as the new enemy problem. So of course, this comes at a cost in terms of latency, but at least for our problem, we need quick reads. Writes, or in other words, when permissions change, tend to happen pretty infrequently. So we don't necessarily have the same latency requirements there. And of course, it comes with all the nice bells and whistles too. So they deeply integrate with GCP, which we're on as well, consolidates all our billing, integrates with Datadog, Prisma, and so on. So it's been a pretty great choice there. So all that being said, the question is, how do you operate and maintain such a database? So I come from a cloud infrastructure background where patterns like config as code are becoming more and more common. And you can kind of see that with tools like Terraform or Kubernetes. So after taking a look at different solutions for an ORM, Prisma was clearly the clear choice there. So why would you define your schema? And by that, I mean, you have your stack of migrations as a series of changes when you already have a change management system. So why would you do that again? So why do it imperatively when you can just do it declaratively and then just check the plan? So that's been really nice. And it's also been nice that once you have that schema defined, you can auto-generate type-safe models, which eliminates any opportunities for drift between your models that are in code and then also your database schema. So generating the models, running the migrations, piece of cake. You just define your end state, and you probably want a human to verify. So you just check the generated migration plan, and you're good to go. So this pattern has been a source of inspiration for us too. So we also enable defining your permissions and model as a config. And so it's fantastic to see a deeper level of collaboration going on between you guys. Is Sabin still here? I think you're muted.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I was just saying, thanks so much for going through that. That's super cool. And I just had a quick question. So the integration you have with Prisma, Has that been pretty smooth so far? How's that been? And are there any specific features that you've really enjoyed about that?
Oh yeah. So before we started with Cockroach, we were on Postgres, and so we were going to migrate to Cockroach, but we were trying to figure out what to use. So I think that example with the demo that both of you guys gave before really highlighted how easy it is to switch from one type of storage to another. And we do support multiple different types of storage, so in that way, Prisma has been really nice. And just in terms of maintenance, the way you declaratively kind of declare all your models in that schema file, just generate all your models from there. That's been really nice as well.
Awesome. Yeah, great. And then looking in the chat, see if there's any questions, but I don't think I see any regarding this. Let's see. I see Mr. Bill Shalon. Is Prisma work on 32-bit OS? To be honest, I'm not actually sure. That's a great question. We actually have in our documentation, we have a section where we show the different operating systems we support and different databases we support. So I definitely encourage you to check there. That'll be within the docs section. And then there should be a supported databases section there, and you should be able to find information on that. But yeah, thanks so much, Sid, for coming on. That was really awesome. It was great to be able to talk to you and get to know you a bit.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then, what we've got next is our raffle. So like I said at the beginning, we're running a raffle for this CockroachDB, the definitive guide. This is a book that was put out, and it has everything you need to know about CockroachDB. And so I think we're ready to announce a winner. So the next slide here should have that. Maybe. Yeah, absolutely taking questions. Let's see. Entering a bit late. If you are taking questions, will there be a release of an ARM version for M1 Max? And if so, when will it be? Thanks. To be honest, I'm not actually sure about this question. So are you maybe a little bit more detail on here for CockroachDB? Okay, I've got it. That would be a good question for Aydrian if he is still on.
Hello. That is a good question. I know that internally we have been working on it, so we've started getting some M1 MacBooks and some other M1 machines to start running it. But I don't have an idea of kind of a timeline around that. So that's something that I would have to take back to our engineers to find out. But the more requests for that they get for it, the quicker that we get it out. So it might be a good thing to go over to our GitHub, which is github.com/CockroachDB/CockroachDB. And you can ask in an issue, and someone will get back to you. But cool. So what I had to do is I had to refresh the presentation because it was edited after I started presenting. So. Oh,
okay, cool. Well, thanks for doing that.
Yeah, so I am ready to hit the next slide. So without further ado.
Cool. Ben, cool. So let's see. Would that be okay? Well, yeah, Ben, who entered it. It looks like you're the winner. I'm thinking that's Benji in the chat. I'm just scrolling through trying to find who that might be. But yeah, that's awesome. I think we'll be reaching out with that book, and hopefully you enjoy it. So
yeah, awesome.
Cool. And I think with that ends our stream for today. Thanks for joining the meetup. Thanks for following us through with our technical difficulties and all of that good stuff. But hopefully you enjoyed it. And the main moral of the story here is that Prisma with CockroachDB, the integration is great and pretty seamless and just allows you to get up and running really quickly. So yeah, thank you.